Today, on Guess What I Found Out, we are going to visit 10 islands that have absolutely no business existing the way they do. We are talking about places that are haunted by poison gas, guarded by a tribe that has never once agreed to meet us, crawling with venomous snakes, buried under other people's plastic trash, and, in one case, basically run by rabbits. Welcome to Earth's strangest islands. Let's start with Ball's Pyramid, which sounds like a geometry problem but is actually a 1,844-foot volcanic spine jutting out of the Tasman Sea. No beach, no flat ground, no reasonable explanation for why anyone would want to be there. It is the eroded core of a volcano that spent millions of years having its softer bits stripped away by the ocean until only this dramatic jagged needle remained. For a long time, scientists assumed nothing could live on it. Then, in the early 2000s, researchers found a population of Lord Howe Island stick insects, a species everyone thought had gone extinct in the 1920s after rats invaded the main island. A tiny colony of these bugs, each the size of your hand, was surviving under a single tea tree bush at 330 feet up a cliff face. That is either inspiring or extremely unsettling, depending on your relationship with large insects. If you love animals and have a thing for controlled chaos, Christmas Island is your destination. It is an Australian territory in the Indian Ocean, and once a year, somewhere between 40 and 50 million red crabs migrate from the forest to the ocean to breed. That is not a typo. 50 million crabs. They close roads. They install special fences to redirect traffic. They shut down infrastructure because the crabs cannot be stopped, and frankly, at that population density, you have to respect the commitment. There are essentially no natural predators keeping the numbers down, and the island's rainforest and limestone terrain are ideal habitat, so the crabs just keep winning. Humans have adapted their entire transportation system around crab migration season. The crabs have not adapted at all. Good for them. Now, if you have ever wondered what happens when you build an entire city on a rock the size of a few football fields and then abandon it overnight, Hashima Island, off the coast of Nagasaki, Japan, is your answer. In the late 1800s, Mitsubishi discovered coal under the seabed nearby and decided the most logical thing to do was build a miniature industrial city directly on a tiny island, surrounded by massive concrete seawalls. At its 1950s peak, more than 5,000 people lived there, making it one of the most densely populated places on Earth. There were schools, hospitals, shops, a cinema and communal bathhouses, all crammed together with no green space, no trees, and constant views of the ocean you were not really allowed to enjoy. Then, in 1974, Japan shifted away from coal, and the island was evacuated in months. Residents left belongings behind. Salt air and typhoons moved in. The place has been decaying in spectacular fashion ever since. Guided tours now operate on the safe sections. The rest is just entropy, doing its thing. If you think that being one of the most remote islands on Earth protects you from the consequences of human activity, Henderson Island is here to have a word. It's a raised coral atoll in the Pitcairn Islands, right in the depths of the South Pacific. No permanent residents, no industry, UNESCO protected, and, well, rarely visited. Yet it holds some of the highest concentrations of plastic pollution on the planet. Millions of pieces of debris, bottles, fishing gear, fragments, washed in by Pacific Ocean currents and deposited on beaches that honestly have never seen a human settlement. The ocean gyre works like a slow-motion conveyor belt, delivering garbage from across the globe directly to one of the most pristine-looking coastlines in existence. Endemic birds and insects, having evolved with no synthetic threats, have absolutely no idea what to do with it. And neither do we, frankly. If you want to watch a new island be born from nothing and then immediately figure out how to be alive, Surtsey, off the coast of Iceland, is the place. It erupted from the seafloor in November 1963 and built itself for nearly 4 years via lava, ash and steam until it became visible land. Scientists immediately closed it to the public and have been watching ever since as life arrived entirely on its own. Seeds blown in by wind, insects drifting on driftwood, birds landing and enriching the soil with their droppings. Surtsey is really a living experiment in how ecosystems actually start, which means every new arrival is data, and every gust of wind is potentially delivering the next colonist. The island is also, bit by bit, slowly eroding back into the sea, so there is a quiet urgency to the whole project. If you enjoy the idea of a place so deliberately preserved, it feels frozen in time. Niihau, the westernmost inhabited island in Hawaii, is just that. It's been privately owned since 1864, when Elizabeth Sinclair bought it from King Kamehameha IV for $10,000. The Robinson family has maintained it ever since as a Native Hawaiian sanctuary. Outsiders are not admitted. The small population of Native Hawaiian residents lives without hotels, without cars, with limited electricity, and with Hawaiian as the primary language. During World War II, a Japanese pilot crash-landed there after Pearl Harbor, and because the island had no outside communication, the residents had no idea what had happened or what it meant. The incident ended with a confrontation and eventually became known as the Niihau incident. The island's isolation made the war feel like it was happening on another planet. Here is a fact that will change how you think about snake populations. Ilha da Queimada Grande, 30 kilometers off the coast of Sao Paulo, Brazil, has so many golden lancehead vipers that the Brazilian government has made it illegal to visit without special authorization. The snakes evolved there after the island separated from the mainland following sea level rise. With no ground predators, nothing kept the population in check. The vipers develop venom significantly more potent than their mainland relatives, optimized for hunting birds mid-flight. Estimates of snake density vary, but the numbers are high enough that past lighthouse keepers were reportedly bitten attempting to tend the light, which is now automated. Unauthorized visitors sometimes claim to have visited in viral videos. Those videos were almost certainly filmed from a boat offshore. Nobody is actually going in there. Speaking of dark histories, Okunoshima, a small island in Japan's Sato Inland Sea, was literally erased from maps in the 1930s. The Japanese military built a poison gas production facility there, manufacturing chemical weapons in secrecy, with workers suffering long-term health consequences. After the war, the factory was dismantled, the records were suppressed, and the island was reopened. Rabbits were introduced at some point, their exact origins still debated, and without predators, they multiplied into a massive, extremely friendly tourist population. Today, ferry visitors arrive to feed and photograph hundreds of tame rabbits, while overgrown bunkers and testing ruins slowly disappear under vegetation. The contrast between what the island was and what it is now is genuinely hard to process. And finally, North Sentinel Island, in the Bay of Bengal, is the most comprehensively off-limits place on this list. The Sentinelese people have lived there for an estimated 60,000 years, in complete isolation from the outside world, and they have made it abundantly clear they intend to keep it that way. Every contact attempt has been met with arrows and hostility. India maintains a no-go exclusion zone of 5 to 10 kilometers around the island to protect both the Sentinelese and any outsiders who might otherwise make the catastrophic mistake of assuming they would be welcome. The concern is not just safety. It is disease. A population with no exposure to modern pathogens has no immunity to things that are entirely routine for the rest of us. In 2018, an American missionary attempted to make contact regardless and was killed. India has not changed its policy. Here is what I find remarkable about all of these places. They are not weird in spite of being isolated. They are weird because of it. Cut a place off from the rest of the world long enough, and it develops its own logic entirely. Stick insects cling to cliffs. Crabs shut down roads. Snakes get better at killing things. Rabbits inherit chemical weapons facilities. And somewhere on a dense forest island in the Bay of Bengal, a group of people who have never heard of any of this are having a completely normal day. Drop a comment below telling me which of these islands you think is the strangest and why. I want to know if you are Team Ball's Pyramid, Team Christmas Island Crabs, or if North Sentinel Island made you stop and rethink everything. Your answer might genuinely surprise me. If this is the kind of content you want to see more of, following the channel is how you make that happen. It costs nothing, it takes 2 seconds, and it tells the algorithm we're doing something right over here at Guess What I Found Out. That is it for today. There are more strange, counterintuitive, improbable corners of this planet to cover, and we are just getting started. See you on the next one.